The key to wealth and happiness isn't what you think it is. It's not working harder at your job. It's not finding the right opportunity. It's not getting lucky or knowing the right people. The real key, the one that actually works, is something most people completely miss. And once I learned it, everything in my life changed. Let me tell you what it is. You know, I've spent decades studying success, watching people rise and fall, and I'll tell you something that might surprise you. The people who have both wealth and happiness aren't lucky. They're not born into it, though some start with advantages. And they're not doing 1,000 different things that you and I can't figure out. No, there's one key lesson that separates those who have it all from those who struggle their entire lives. And here it is. As simple as I can make it. You must work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Let me say that again because it's that important. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Now, most people hear that and they nod, maybe write it down, but they don't really get it. They don't understand that this one lesson, this one shift in focus is the difference between a life of quiet desperation and a life of abundance in every area that matters. See, when I was 25 years old, I was broke. Not just short on cash, but truly broke. Pennies in my pocket, behind on my promises, and going nowhere fast. I had a good work ethic. I showed up. I put in my hours. But I was working hard on my job and barely getting by. Then I met a man who became my mentor, and he asked me a question that changed everything. He said, if you work hard on your job, you'll make a living. But if you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune. Now, at first I didn't understand what he meant. I thought, isn't working hard on my job working on myself? But here's what I learned. Working on your job means you're trading time for money. You're being paid for the hours you put in, the effort you expend, the tasks you complete. And there's a ceiling to that. There's only so many hours in a day, only so much energy you have, only so much your employer will pay for your time. But working on yourself? That's different. That means you're increasing your value. You're becoming worth more to the marketplace. You're developing skills that make you irreplaceable, gaining knowledge that sets you apart, building character that attracts opportunity. And here's the beautiful part. There's no ceiling to that. You can become twice as valuable, 10 times as valuable, 100 times as valuable. And when you do, the wealth follows. It has to. The marketplace rewards value. Now, let's talk about happiness because this same principle applies. Most people think happiness is something you find, something you chase, something that happens to you when circumstances align just right. They say, I'll be happy when I get that promotion. I'll be happy when I find the right person. I'll be happy when I have enough money in the bank. But happiness doesn't work that way. Happiness isn't a destination you arrive at. It's a byproduct of who you're becoming. Think about it. Have you ever achieved something you thought would make you happy, only to feel empty a few weeks later? Sure you have. We all have. That's because the achievement itself doesn't create lasting happiness. What creates happiness is the person you had to become to achieve it, the discipline you developed, the obstacles you overcame, the growth you experienced. That's where real fulfillment comes from, not from having, but from becoming. So here's what I'm telling you. The key to both wealth and happiness is the same. Become more valuable, become a better person. Work on your skills, your knowledge, your character, your philosophy, your attitude. Do that and wealth will come. Do that and happiness will come. They're both waiting on the other side of who you become. Now let me break this down further, because understanding this principle intellectually isn't enough. You've got to see how it works in real life. When I was young and struggling, I thought my problem was my job. I thought if I could just find a better company, a better position, a better boss, then things would turn around. So I changed jobs, and you know what? Nothing changed. I was still broke, still frustrated, still going nowhere. That's when it hit me. The problem wasn't my job. The problem was me. I wasn't valuable enough. I didn't know enough. I hadn't developed enough skills. I hadn't read the books I needed to read, learned the lessons I needed to learn, or become the person I needed to become. The marketplace was paying me exactly what I was worth, and I didn't like the price. So I made a decision. I decided to become worth more. I started reading everything I could get my hands on. Books on philosophy, on business, on success, on human nature. I studied successful people, not just what they did, but how they thought. I worked on my communication skills because I realized that your ability to share ideas, to inspire others, to articulate value is worth a fortune. I worked on my discipline because I noticed that successful people did things unsuccessful people didn't want to do. And here's what happened. Within a few years, my income had multiplied several times over. Not because I worked more hours, not because I got lucky, but because I became more valuable. I could solve problems other people couldn't solve. I could see opportunities other people missed. I could lead when leadership was needed. The marketplace noticed, and the marketplace paid. But here's what's even more important. As I grew, as I developed, as I became more, I found something unexpected. I was happier, not because I had more money, though that helped, but because I liked who I was becoming. I respected myself. I knew I was on the right path. I was proud of the discipline I was developing. And that inner satisfaction, that sense of progress, that feeling of becoming who you're capable of being, that's happiness. Real happiness. The kind that doesn't fade when circumstances change. Let me tell you what else I learned. Your income will rarely exceed your level of personal development. If you want to earn more, become more. If you want to have more, become more. If you want to attract better opportunities, become a better person. It's not complicated, but it is profound. See, the marketplace is incredibly fair. It pays for value. And if you want to increase what you're paid, you must increase the value you bring. Now, some people hear this and they get offended. They say, "Are you telling me I'm not valuable?" No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that you're probably more valuable than you're demonstrating. You have potential you haven't developed. You have abilities you haven't sharpened. You have knowledge you haven't acquired. And until you do the work to develop that potential, sharpen those abilities and acquire that knowledge, the marketplace won't pay you for it. Think of it this way. You might have $1 million worth of gold buried in your backyard, but until you dig it up, refine it, and bring it to market, you're still broke. Your potential is like that gold. It's there, but it's not doing you any good until you do something with it. And working on yourself is how you dig it up. Here's another truth about this key lesson. It applies to every area of life, not just money. You want better relationships? Become a better person. Work on your patience, your understanding, your ability to listen, your capacity to love. You want better health? Work on your discipline, your knowledge of nutrition, your commitment to exercise. You want peace of mind? Work on your philosophy, your perspective, your ability to see challenges as opportunities. Everything you want is available to you if you're willing to become the person who deserves it. And I use that word carefully. Deserves. Not in a moral sense, but in a practical sense. A person who hasn't developed discipline doesn't deserve success because they wouldn't know what to do with it. A person who hasn't learned to manage small amounts of money doesn't deserve large amounts because they'd lose it. Life doesn't give you what you want. Life gives you what you're prepared for. Now, let's talk about how this actually works on a day-to-day basis, because that's where the real magic happens. Success isn't an event, it's a process. It's the accumulation of small decisions, repeated consistently over time. And the same is true for failure. Failure isn't a catastrophic event. It's the accumulation of small errors in judgment, repeated consistently over time. Here's what I mean. If you read 10 pages of a good book every day, that doesn't seem like much. It's easy to do, but it's also easy not to do. You can skip it today. One day won't matter, right? But here's what happens over time. 10 pages a day is about one book every 2 weeks. That's 25 books a year. In 10 years, that's 250 books. Do you think reading 250 books on success, philosophy, business, and human nature might make you more valuable? Of course it would. That knowledge would transform you. It would change how you think, how you see opportunities, how you solve problems. But most people don't do it. Not because they can't, not because they don't have time, but because the cost of neglecting it today seems so small. There's no immediate consequence to not reading today. So they skip it. And they skip it again tomorrow. And the day after that. And 10 years later, they're in the same place they were, wondering why life hasn't changed. That's the key lesson again. Success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Failure is a few errors in judgment repeated every day. The difference is tiny in the moment, but massive over time. Taking care of your body every day versus neglecting it every day. The difference seems small today, but over 20 years, one person is healthy and vibrant while the other is sick and limited. Saving a portion of your income every day versus spending everything you make. The difference seems small today, but over 20 years, one person has wealth and options while the other is trapped and stressed. Learning something new every day versus watching mindless television every day. Being kind to people every day versus being indifferent every day. Working on your skills every day versus coasting on what you already know every day. These small choices, these daily disciplines, these simple decisions that seem almost insignificant in the moment, they're building your future. They're determining who you become. And who you become determines everything. Here's something else I want you to understand. The wealthy and happy aren't doing things that are hard. They're doing things that are easy. Reading is easy. Saving money is easy. Being kind is easy. Working on your skills is easy. But you know what else is easy? Not reading. Not saving. Being indifferent. Not growing. Both are easy. The question is, which easy are you going to choose? See, that's the real battle. Not between hard and easy, but between two easy choices with very different long-term consequences. And most people choose the easy that leads to regret instead of the easy that leads to reward. Why? Because they don't understand the key lesson. They're not working on themselves. They're not thinking long-term. They're not becoming more valuable. They're just getting by day after day, making the small errors in judgment that compound into major failure. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can turn it around starting right now. You can make the decision to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. You can start practicing the simple disciplines that lead to success. You can begin the journey of becoming more valuable. And when you do, everything changes. Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. Years ago, I knew a man who worked in sales. He was average, made an average income, lived an average life, had average results. One day, I asked him, "What are you doing to get better at sales?" He looked at me confused and said, "What do you mean?" "I'm working hard, I'm making calls, I'm doing the job." I said, "Yes, but what are you doing to improve? What books are you reading? What skills are you developing? Who are you learning from?" He admitted he wasn't doing any of that. He was just doing the same thing every day, hoping for different results. So I challenged him. I said, "What if you spent 1 hour every day for the next 90 days learning everything you could about sales? Reading books by the masters, studying psychology, practicing your presentation, analyzing what works and what doesn't. What do you think would happen?" He said he'd probably get better. I said, "Probably? You'd transform. You'd become one of the top salespeople in your company." He took the challenge. And you know what happened? Within 6 months, his income had doubled. Within a year, it had tripled. Not because he worked more hours, not because his territory changed, but because he became more valuable. He developed skills that set him apart. He understood people better. He communicated more effectively. He solved problems more creatively, and the marketplace rewarded him for it. But here's what he told me that really stuck with me. He said, "The money is great, but what's better is how I feel about myself. I'm proud of what I've learned. I'm excited to get up in the morning. I look forward to challenges because I know I can handle them. I'm becoming the person I always wanted to be." That's what I'm talking about. That's the key lesson in action. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job, and you'll not only make a fortune, you'll become someone worth being. Now, let's address something important. Some people might be thinking, "But I don't have time to work on myself. I'm already working so hard just to keep up." And I understand that feeling. I've been there. But here's what you need to know. You don't have time not to work on yourself. Because if you don't become more valuable, you'll work hard your entire life and have little to show for it. You'll trade your time for money at the same rate year after year, decade after decade, until you're too old or too tired to keep going. But if you invest time in yourself, if you develop your skills and knowledge and character, you'll increase your value. And as your value increases, so does your income. So does your influence. So does your impact. So does your fulfillment. You'll work smarter instead of just harder. You'll have leverage. You'll have options. You'll have freedom. And isn't that worth an hour a day? Think about it this way. You're going to spend the next 10 years somewhere. You're going to be 10 years older whether you work on yourself or not. The question is, who will you be in 10 years? Will you be more skilled, more knowledgeable, more valuable, more fulfilled? Or will you be the same person you are today, just older and more frustrated? The choice is yours, and you make it with your daily decisions. Here's another aspect of this key lesson that's crucial to understand. When you work on yourself, when you become more valuable, you don't just earn more money. You attract better opportunities. You attract better people. You attract better circumstances. Success attracts success. Value attracts value. Like attracts like. When you're growing, learning, and developing, you naturally connect with others who are doing the same. You find yourself in rooms you never had access to before. You get offers you never would have received before. Your whole life elevates. I've seen this happen over and over again. A person commits to personal development, starts reading, starts learning, starts growing. And suddenly, opportunities appear that weren't there before. Not because the opportunities didn't exist, but because the person wasn't ready for them. They weren't valuable enough to attract them. But once they increased their value, the opportunities found them. And the same principle applies to happiness. When you're working on yourself, when you're growing and developing, you feel good about yourself, you have self-respect, you have confidence. Not the fake confidence that comes from arrogance, but the real confidence that comes from knowing you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're investing in yourself. You're becoming more. And that internal satisfaction creates a foundation for happiness that circumstances can't shake. See, most people are unhappy because they're not growing. They're stuck. They're doing the same thing day after day, year after year, and they feel it. Deep down, they know they're capable of more. They know they're settling. They know they're not developing their potential. And that creates a gnawing sense of regret, of wasted time, of missed opportunity. That's not a recipe for happiness. But when you're growing, when you're pushing yourself, when you're becoming more, you feel alive. You feel purposeful. You feel like you're making progress. And that sense of progress is one of the most important ingredients in human happiness. We're designed to grow. We're meant to develop. We're created to become more. And when we're doing that, we feel right. We feel fulfilled. We feel happy. Now, let me give you some practical steps, because understanding the principle isn't enough. You've got to apply it. First, decide what areas of your life need development. Maybe it's your professional skills. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your relationships. Maybe it's your finances. Maybe it's your spiritual life. Be honest with yourself. Where are you settling? Where are you capable of more? Second, commit to learning. Read books. Listen to audio programs. Attend seminars. Find mentors. Study people who've achieved what you want to achieve. Become a student of success, a student of life, a student of human nature. The more you learn, the more you earn. The more you know, the more you grow. Knowledge is the foundation of all achievement. Third, develop discipline. Start practicing the small, simple disciplines that successful people practice. Get up earlier. Exercise regularly. Eat well. Save money. Be kind. Keep your word. These aren't complicated, but they're powerful. They build character. They create momentum. They make you better. Fourth, be patient but persistent. Personal development isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. You won't transform overnight. But if you're consistent, if you keep working on yourself day after day, month after month, year after year, the compound effect will amaze you. You'll look back in 5 years and barely recognize who you were. And that person you'll be in 5 years, that person will have the wealth and happiness you're seeking now. Let me tell you what else happens when you commit to this key lesson. You stop blaming. You stop making excuses. You stop waiting for circumstances to change, because you realize that you're the problem and you're the solution. If your life isn't what you want it to be, it's because you're not who you need to be. And if you want your life to change, you must change. You must grow. You must become more valuable. This is incredibly liberating. It puts you in control. It gives you power. Not power over other people or circumstances, but power over yourself and your future. You're not a victim. You're not at the mercy of the economy, your boss, your background, or your circumstances. You're the creator of your life. And the tool you use to create it is personal development. I've watched people transform their entire lives by applying this one lesson. I've seen people go from broke to wealthy, from depressed to fulfilled, from stuck to pressed, and successful. And in every case, the transformation started the same way. They decided to work harder on themselves than they did on their job. They committed to becoming more valuable. They practiced the daily disciplines. And over time, everything changed. Here's what I want you to understand. Wealth and happiness aren't mysterious. They're not reserved for the lucky or the privileged. They're available to anyone willing to do what it takes to deserve them. And what it takes is becoming more. Developing yourself. Increasing your value. Growing your skills. Your knowledge, your character, your contribution. The marketplace will pay you what you're worth. Life will give you what you're prepared for. And if you want more, you must become more. That's the key lesson. That's the secret. That's the difference between those who have it all and those who struggle. Not talent. Not luck. Not connections. Personal development. working harder on yourself than you do on your job. So here's my challenge to you. Starting today, make personal development your top priority. Commit to reading at least 30 minutes every day. Commit to learning something new every week. Commit to practicing a discipline that will make you better. Commit to becoming more valuable. Do this for 90 days and watch what happens. Your income will start to increase. Your opportunities will start to expand. Your confidence will start to grow. Your happiness will start to deepen. And here's the beautiful part. Once you see the results, you won't want to stop. Personal development becomes addictive in the best possible way. You'll love who you're becoming. You'll be excited about your future. You'll feel like you're finally on the right path. And you'll wonder why you didn't start sooner. But don't waste time on regret. Don't spend energy wishing you'd started years ago. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. You can't change the past, but you can change the future. You can start working on yourself right now. You can begin the journey of becoming more valuable today. And if you do, I promise you, both wealth and happiness will be waiting for you. You know, as I look back on my life, on all the lessons I've learned and all the success I've achieved, this one stands out above all others. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. It changed everything for me. It took me from broke to wealthy, from frustrated to fulfilled, from ordinary to extraordinary, and it will do the same for you if you let it. The question is, will you? Will you commit to becoming more? Will you invest in yourself? Will you practice the daily disciplines? Will you do what it takes to increase your value? Because everything you want is available to you. The wealth, the happiness, the success, the fulfillment. It's all there, waiting on the other side of who you become. So make the decision. Make it today. Make it right now. Decide that from this moment forward, you're going to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. You're going to become more valuable. You're going to develop yourself. You're going to grow, learn, and improve every single day. Make that commitment, keep that commitment, and watch your life transform. The key to wealth and happiness isn't out there somewhere. It's in you. It's in your willingness to become more. Start today and never stop. That's the key lesson, and it works if you work it. So let me bring this all together for you in a way that you can take with you and use starting right now. Everything I've shared today, all these lessons and stories and principles, they all point to one undeniable truth. Your life will only get better when you get better. Your income will only increase when your value increases. Your happiness will only deepen when your character deepens. This isn't theory. This isn't philosophy for the sake of philosophy. This is how life actually works. You see, most people spend their entire lives working on their circumstances. They try to change their job, change their location, change their relationships, change their luck, but they never change themselves. And that's why nothing really changes. They might get temporary relief, a brief boost, a momentary improvement, but then they settle right back to where they were because they're still the same person. The same habits, the same thinking, the same value, and life always brings you back to what you're worth. But when you commit to working on yourself, when you make personal development your primary goal, everything shifts. You become the kind of person who naturally attracts success. You develop the skills that create wealth. You build the character that generates happiness. You don't have to chase these things anymore. They come to you because you've become someone who deserves them. Now, I know some of you are thinking, this sounds good, but where do I start? Start where you are. Start with what you have. Start today. Pick up a book tonight. A good book that will teach you something valuable. Read it. Apply it. Then get another one. Start exercising tomorrow morning. Just 30 minutes. Build that discipline. Start saving something from every paycheck. Even if it's small. Build that habit. Start being kinder to people. Start keeping your promises. Start doing what you say you're going to do. These simple actions, practiced consistently, will transform you. And remember this. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to begin. Take the first step. Make the commitment. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Become more valuable every single day. Do that, and I promise you, 5 years from now, you'll be living a life that feels like a miracle. Not because miracles happened, but because you changed. You grew. You became more. The wealth you want is waiting. The happiness you desire is available. The life you dream about is possible, but it's all on the other side of who you become. So become that person. Start today. Work on yourself with the same intensity, the same dedication, the same commitment that you work on your job. Actually work on yourself even harder. Make it your mission. Make it your priority. Make it your life's work to become more valuable, more skilled, more disciplined, more worthy. Do that, and everything you want will be yours. Not someday, not eventually, sooner than you think. That's the key lesson for wealth and happiness, and now it's yours. The question is, what will you do with it?